Hello, this is the Green Corn Rebellion show. I'm Gregory Harden II, and today I'm here with Sophia Florence, who is a comedian, filmmaker, chemical engineer, and a person who follows me on Twitter. How are you doing today?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop what you're doing. Okay. If you like this video and you like the other content on my channel, please hit the like button on this video. Also, go hit subscribe like right now. And also, when you hit subscribe, click the bell so you can get notifications whenever I put out a new video. So, thanks. All right, enjoy the rest of the video.
I'm doing awesome. I just got done seeing the movie X,
Yeah.
the new Ty West movie with Kid Cudi. It was awesome.
Oh my
Definitely,
God, that was Kid Cudi, wasn't it? No
it
wonder why that
was.
person seems so familiar to me. I was like, I know this black guy seems familiar, but I don't know what from.
Yeah, it's Kid
Yeah.
Cudi, and it's so wild to me because he did that movie, which is like a horror movie about starring in a porno, and then he's also doing music for the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And
Okay.
I really feel like he's playing every market at once right now. Like that's so wild to me.
Yeah, because I haven't heard anything from Kid Cudi since I was like 10 years old. Like
Oh my
I
God.
after
Yeah.
after like after what was it? He had that album Man on the Moon. I think he had like another album or something in like 2010 or 2009, but I haven't heard anything much from him since like what was He did the song with David Guetta, Memories. That was like in 2011.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I remember hearing about Kid
Oh my
Cudi.
God. Yeah,
So
he's not somebody whose career I've followed super closely.
yeah, he was pretty good. He's like 30% of the reason why we have Drake because of his influence. So, that's the
Yeah.
only time I've ever heard his name come up in the last like 10 years is when people talk about super influential people within rap music over the last decade or so. And his name
Yeah.
always comes up, even though I haven't heard any music from him since then. He wasn't one of my favorite people anyway. Back then, I liked some of his songs,
Yeah.
but no, that is him in that movie. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Because I saw it a few weeks ago and I was like, that guy seems familiar. I just don't know how. But yeah.
Well, he was using his actual name for the purposes of the movie. Um
Hmm.
I think I did see him listed as Kid Cudi on some promotionals for it, but like for movies, not listed as Kid Cudi.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe he'll be in the next Jordan Peele movie since he's doing the horror thing.
I don't think he is because Jordan Peele's got a new one coming out in
Yeah,
2 months. Um,
something like that. Sometime this year. I don't remember when or what it's
yeah,
about,
Nope.
but I know it's one that's coming up soon. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Nope, and it looks like it's about aliens, but I could be convinced otherwise. I feel like Jordan Peele's the kind of guy to like pull a not a total fast one, but have a little bit of a plot twist there.
Yeah. Speaking of Jordan Peele, I was rewatching Key and Peele. Remember that show?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That was so good. Like I think maybe once a year I go back and rewatch the entire series, and it was so good. Like I was in eighth grade, seventh grade when it started, somewhere in there. I was like in
Yeah.
late middle school that it ended when I was in high school. But I watched it all the time whenever it came out. Like I don't remember which day of the week it was new. I want to say it was Tuesday nights or something like that. But I would remember
Yeah.
watching it and looking back at it, it's so good still. Like it's not like something from like 2005 that didn't it's half of it didn't age well, I guess because
Oh
it's not that
yeah.
old, but like all of it's pretty good and stands up. And it's and it made me remember where I get like half of my humor from is from that show, because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I say that because of this show or because of this sketch. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I've never been able to see the name Aaron the same way ever since that
Yes.
show.
Oh,
I've
oh my God. So I'm a
I've never not thought AA wrong.
yeah, so like I'm a substitute teacher now, right?
Oh
So
no.
yeah, every time whenever I am subbing, almost every other time whenever I'm subbing, I think of that sketch because I don't want to ever, well, I say this, I don't want to butcher anyone's name or get anyone's name wrong, even though the sketch wasn't him butchering people's names. It was him saying the names wrong, but defending himself, saying the names wrong as if he was correct. But nonetheless, it still makes me think of that because I'll say names of, because like when I sub in Oklahoma City, it's mostly either Black names or Latino names that I'm having to read off. And I'm usually good with the Latino names because it's Spanish. I took Spanish in high school. So, you know, I can figure it out a little bit better. But with the Black names, they throw the English language out of the no, you just no, none of the rules apply. I's will sound like
Yeah.
A's, all types of other stuff. And it's funny because like I'll say the names and sometimes the kids will laugh at me because I said it wrong. And every time when that happens, I always think of that sketch and I'm like, oh no, I'm just gonna start like I'm just gonna ask for their last name, and if they don't respond, then they're just not here.
Oh, no.
But
Oh
yeah,
no.
oh wow, but no, that's oh wow, but no, never been able to look at the name Aaron correctly or Denise or Denise, I guess,
Be nice.
whatever.
Denise.
But like, yeah, but no, when people, well, the thing that made me think about the thing that makes me think about that sketch sometimes now is um like some people actually have names that sound like that, like they'll be spelled a certain way and you think they're trying to do one thing but it's actually not, and
Yeah.
you'll feel weird saying it, but then they're like no, that's not it, it's this, and it's like that doesn't sound right. Really, is that really it? And then they're like yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like okay, I guess, but no, it's no. Oh no, those Key and Peele sketches in the anger translator, Obama's anger
The
translator.
anger translator is my favorite one. I've always wanted an anger translator because I don't usually get loud when I'm angry. I tend to. I think I'm in the Obama place when I get angry. Like I'm just a little bit stern, but like that's the best I can do most of the time.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
it takes a lot for me to yell, and so I've always thought about just asking somebody, hey, can you be my anger translator? Because I'm really gonna need one.
Yeah, and I think my favorite sketch with that was the one where it was Obama and Hillary meeting each other, and they both had their anger translators. And this
I
was
don't think I saw that
right,
one.
yeah, and this was like I want to say it was 2015 when this sketch aired. So it was like right in like the primary, Democratic primary in
Yeah.
2016. And I thought it was hilarious then, and I thought it was hilarious now because it's so accurate. What
Oh
was
my
what
God.
was the first thing he said? He Obama's translator said, I've pretended to like you for 7 years. I was like, oh, that's so accurate. Oh
Oh my
yeah.
God. Oh my God. Yeah, 2016 was an ugly year.
Oh wow. Yeah. But no.
Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show are sponsored by Oklahoma Progress Now. Oklahoma Progress Now is a 501c4 organization focused on building progressive power in Oklahoma. Their primary efforts are on developing progressive content for a 21st century audience, coalition, and capacity building across progressive organizations and causes, and working to see elected leaders who are more responsive to their constituents and the needs of the many. Areas of focus include progressive messaging and communications, coalition building and resource sharing, and focused progressive policy goals. You can check out their Twitch live streams, and they go live on Facebook at noon, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please support this organization. It's a really great organization. It's just getting started here in Oklahoma. Thank you. Now enjoy the rest of the video.
I have other questions here to ask. We could just go off on this right now. Where are you from? Did I ask that question yet? No, I haven't. I just asked how you were. Okay, so where are you from and where did you grow up? Yeah.
So right now I live in West Hartford, Connecticut. I grew up mostly in Waterbury, Connecticut. Also lived in New Haven, Connecticut for a long time, and I spent a short amount of time living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Waterbury is very much like if somebody took out a tiny little piece of the Midwest and decided to plop it in the middle of New England and just see how it survived. And, let me tell you, not well. Did not do well. It feels like a tiny little piece of Detroit. Like it's, if you asked everybody what they thought about, what do you think about when you think of New
England? I think of the Puritans and
definitely not those people.
But I think of a lot of super, because like the majority of people who still live in, at least the white people, well, I guess you could even say this about some of the black people, but more or less the white people. I think of mostly people who were probably been here in terms of like family lineage, whatnot. They've been here the longest, so they're probably more established and preppier, and probably look down on the rest of the country in terms of where they're at. But yeah, that's what I think of when I think of the New England.
That's what people usually think of. So when I think of Connecticut, I think of it like there's the New York side and there's the Rhode Island side. The Rhode Island side is people that are exactly like Rhode Island people. Which is to say, like it's a bunch of Peter Griffins running around. It really is that, and I can't say anything but that. And that's like the area that I work in. And then Central Connecticut, if you decided to like cut it around the Connecticut River, and then cut it right around Waterbury, and you just go up and down the state, and there's this area that is like all of these dilapidated old factory towns, mostly like people that immigrated here about 100 some odd years ago. It's like it's more newer families, more Italian, Polish, Irish people that worked in miserable factories about 100 years ago. And then Reagan came along and fucked everything up, and the jobs left and the people got broke, and now it's kind of it feels like the Midwest. It feels like a kind of collapsed place. I don't know if you've ever read anything from Sarah Kendzior before. She wrote a book called The View from Flyover Country, and it's kind of about the politics of the Midwest, but it's a collection of essays that she had written. And then she wrote one recently, which I actually have in my bookshelf, hiding in plain sight. But she lives, this one's about Donald Trump being a white collar criminal. Like it's really just about that. It's connections with Epstein. It's about all the Paul Manafort stuff. Paul Manafort, by the way, is from New Britain, Connecticut, part of Central Connecticut. But she's from Meriden, Connecticut, which is a tiny little like micro city next to Waterbury. But Waterbury is the place that they tell you about in Connecticut that you just kind of pass through. They're like, don't get out of the car. Because it's not even like a regular crime kind of place. It's like the kind of place where like, I remember driving down the road a couple months ago, and I passed through this like primarily Latin neighborhood. Well, two primarily Latin neighborhoods in Waterbury. I was passing through one, and I see a guy out the side of my car wearing nothing but like short shorts and one of those like Raiden hats from Mortal Kombat. And that's about what you can expect.
Okay.
But like, I also remember like one time, like it was around Christmas, I got really sick. For some reason, every year I get sick around Christmas or New Year's. And I left my car parked outside the apartment building I lived in. and I left my Christmas stuff in the car. And mind you, I had like a nice new signed comic book. I had like a new cardigan that my mom had given me for Christmas, all these nice kind of things. And I came out like 3 days later after being sick, and I was like, I'll bring everything up. So somebody had broken my back windshield to get the things out of my car, which is a strange place to break into a car because you're gonna have to climb through the car.
Yeah.
But they had only taken, I had bought cat litter as well. They had taken the cat litter and a piece of IKEA furniture out of my car and left the comic book, the cardigan, all the really nice things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I mean, like, I got robbed at gunpoint there before too. It's not, it wasn't a gentle neighborhood, but it's almost like the crime is too silly to take serious half the time. Like it's like somebody's robbing you and you're like, oh, come on, like, what are you gonna do with this? Like, you're gonna go buy cat litter? Like, is that what this is about? Gonna take some more IKEA furniture?
It's the kind of thing where they'll ask for your wallet, but they'll give you the money and everything else in the wallet and just take the wallet itself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird place. It's the weirdest place that I've ever been in my life. And like people are like, don't go there, like you'll get robbed. And it won't be the worst robbery you've ever been through.
But it'll be unpleasant, but then also weird at the same time. Yeah.
Unpleasant, but very confusing. Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. So
yeah, I was out in St. Louis and it felt very much like I had just driven down the street.
It's interesting. So what made you want to become a comedian?
So my whole life, I grew up watching and listening to a lot of comedy. I also grew up playing a lot of music. I was on stage a lot from the time I was like 13 until, still now. Made all different kinds of music. It was a lot of hip hop, but a lot of metal, a lot of different kinds of things. Anytime somebody asked me to pick up an instrument, I'd be happy to do so. And then there was a couple of years where I didn't. I kind of focused on my day job, and I felt miserable. And so I actually had ended up in inpatient in inpatient psychiatric care. I took a few too many pills, and so we're in group therapy every other day, and I couldn't help but start to make jokes about things. Like it was just kind of my only way of coping with the situation. It made me feel a lot better. So I said, all right, well, when I get out of here, I'll, go hit up an open mic. And then, just kind of kept going from there. It was like, I don't want to stop hitting up open mics. And then I started hosting my own shows. And it was myself and a good friend of mine, Kevin Jones, who says he doesn't want to do comedy anymore. I'm trying to convince him otherwise because I love Kevin a lot. But we had been hosting shows at a few different venues around the state. And yeah, that just kind of kept me going. So now this year I'm like thinking about maybe taking it on the road for a bit. I have a good friend who actually just moved to the Midwest. He's in Nebraska, which is a place I've never been, but like I could drive to Nebraska.
That's cool. And so who would you say are some of your like biggest influences when it comes to being a comedian?
I think my biggest influences when I was a kid, and this sucks actually just so much saying this. Like I grew up listening to a Bill Cosby record over and over again. It had, obviously like things didn't go well for Bill Cosby. Well,
or for the people who caused things to not go well for him or whatever, I guess.
Yeah. Bill Cosby fucked over a lot of people who didn't need to get fucked over.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But I grew up listening to the Bill Cosby as himself record like over and over again, and I could probably tell you every joke from that record. I had it on vinyl, and I would just literally put that on over and over and over again when I was a kid, and probably ruin the vinyl. Um,
That's interesting. I haven't heard
yeah,
anyone in a while say, "Oh, Bill Cosby was a huge influence on me." Like,
yeah,
there's not anyone like your age or younger, because I guess for people my age, we all knew like, and maybe I guess, well, you were a little bit older for this, so you probably didn't watch it. Like, Little Bill was what I watched when I was
Oh
like a
yeah, yeah,
little
no, no, no.
kid.
I know about Lil Bill.
Yeah,
You know those little avatar things that you can make on Facebook. You make like a little me of
yeah.
yourself. It's like a cartoon. My my friend Kevin that I work with, he made his, and his looks exactly like Lil Bill. It's the funniest thing. You know? It's like, oh, Kevin, please don't use that.
Yeah, like, yeah, people my age, we watch, and the Cosby Show was on, reruns all the time back then. So I watched
Yeah,
that, and I never, how do I say this? I guess I mean, of course I liked Little Bill when I was, a kid. But when it came to the Cosby Show, as I got older, kind of got bored with it, didn't really want to watch
yeah,
it anymore. And even now, I kind of want to see it just to like see if I would be into it as an adult, but I
yeah,
don't think I would be. I don't know, because it's kind of one of those shows that I look back at it and I don't think, in a way, I don't think that show was for the Black community. I feel like it was more of, it probably served two different purposes. It was more of to show white people that Black people can be better or be like them or whatever they aspire to be as white people. And it also maybe subtly, in a way, kind of was a finger wagging at Black people, saying
yeah,
you should be like this. And so that's how I view that show, looking back at it, because like
yeah.
that show is the most unrealistic thing that you could imagine. I mean,
Oh yeah,
not saying that Black people can't be doctors or lawyers or anything like that, but just everything about it just seemed too unreal to me in terms of like a Black family. Like, I know Black people who are doctors and who are lawyers, but it wasn't what they had going on, and it was a little, too conservative for my thoughts, but that's not kind of how I
yeah,
thought about that show. I mean, I'm sure there's still good parts about that show that are redeemable and whatnot, um
yeah,
but yeah, Bill Cosby. Who else would you
yeah.
say is an influence for you, or was, or has been?
Uh, Robin Williams and Sarah Silverman, Hannibal Buress, in the past like 10 years, like especially when I was like first starting to write comedy, like Hannibal Buress was somebody that I thought about a lot. Um, he's somebody that I like because he's kind of subdued in a way a lot of times. Like he's a really like silly guy, but it's almost like he sounds like very serious all the time, and I kind of like that. Like even when he's talking about something that's like really funny, like it's eating penguins, or like uh, God, his experience jaywalking in Canada, or any of that stuff. And it's like he doesn't tend to like get like overexcited, and I feel like kind of the same way, like where like I tend to be like groaning at myself, and I respect that. But I loved people growing up that were like extremely energetic. I loved Robin Williams. I loved watching like Jim Carrey movies when I was growing up, because those guys were just like over the top, like so like big energy. It's just that I never became that person. And so when I
Yeah.
thought about comedy when I was a kid, like I always thought that I would have to be this over the top, like kind of crazy person, and I ended up being more of an engineer. And so I didn't have that like wild energy. But yeah, I never really got into the Cosby Show. I didn't like sitcoms much when I grew up. I watched Seinfeld, and I think that was the only sitcom that I ever got into, and it's because I felt like I also felt dragged down by the minutia of life, like everyday life, and like it was like always George too that I found the most relatable, because George would be like, somebody else is cutting the candy bar, I just hate it, like, and it's like I get that on a spiritual level. I'm like, I
Yeah.
get you, George.
Yeah, I never got into Seinfeld. I think I need to revisit it now that I'm an adult. But when I
It
was
didn't
like,
age as badly as it could have. I'll put it that way.
yeah, because what is it? Yeah, I think I tried watching it when I was a teenager, but couldn't really get into it that much. I don't know why, but I just couldn't. Because I loved the B movie. I love Jerry Seinfeld in the B
Yeah.
movie. The B
Oh
movie
my
is one of
God,
my
yes.
favorite movies.
Oh my God, yes.
And I like Julia Louise Dreyfus. You know, I liked Veep. I liked her in Veep and New Adventures of Wolf Christine. And yeah, I need to revisit it. Is it on Netflix or Hulu or
It's
anything?
on one of those services right now, because
I think it's on
I
HBO actually.
I
Maybe. I don't
definitely
know. I need to
pulled up
look.
an episode a couple weeks ago, because I don't remember which episode it was. I If you want to watch one episode, look for the episode called The Contest and just
Okay.
start there. Like, it is a contest to see which out of the four of them will can go the longest without masturbating.
Oh God. Okay.
But they never say it directly.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're always like working around this, but you know what they're talking about the whole time.
Yeah. Kind of like how in How I Met Your Mother, when they talk about reading a magazine.
Oh,
they
I never watched that show.
Oh wow. So it's good. It's definitely my favorite show. In terms of like sitcoms, it's my favorite show. They had a lot of that because the show itself, which this is so weird to me looking back at it, not even looking back at it, even at the time I thought this was weird. So the show is future Ted Mosby talking to his kids about the events leading up to how he met their mom. And so it's very, very detailed, obviously. And parts of it are weird. So he'll talk about how his friend Barney, is begging chicks all the time and whatnot. But then when it comes to smoking weed, he'll say, what is it? Eating a sandwich is what he used for that. And I was like, okay. And then what was the other thing? And then reading a magazine was masturbating, except for when Barney one time in one episode, he was at one part of the episode, he said, reading a magazine is masturbating, right? And I don't know, but it's funny to me that they use those innuendos. They weren't really innuendos because no one else was using that to mean those things, at least not to my knowledge. But he would do that for certain things, but then other things it was, didn't mind telling his kids what happened and not sugarcoating it at all. It's just weird. But
Yeah.
but no, How I Met Your Mother was really good. And let's see. I like a lot of old sitcoms from back then, like the 90s and 2000s. Um,
I tend to always catch them like after they're done. Like even like the Fresh Prince, like I watched afterwards.
Oh, you were
It's
alive for
very.
all of that, weren't you? I forgot.
I was alive for that the whole run of that show, but
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I just like watched cartoons all the time, and I watched Comedy Central. I think first came on air when I was like 5, and so I probably shouldn't have been consuming a lot of Comedy Central, but I was.
Yeah.
And there's a million jokes that I didn't understand, but I
Yeah, because you were
definitely,
5.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I definitely still always think of this show, Dr. Katz, which I don't know if you watched like home
I've heard.
movies.
I've watched home movies. Yeah.
Okay, the people that worked on home movies worked on Dr. Katz, and it's
Okay.
it's this show. there's a young H. John Benjamin in it, and it's really weird because his voice is less deep than it is now. Like it's not the same voice, but it's
Yeah.
close. And Dr. Katz was about a therapist, but almost all of his clients were comedians. And so when they sat down on the couch, they would be telling their jokes, and it's like a routine done from a therapist's couch, and it's like kind of more miserable. And I feel like that's what I'm channeling when I'm writing comedy, is like this like how would I make my therapist laugh kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Cats. I've heard of that show. I've never seen it. Did Sam
It's
Cedar appear in
great.
it ever?
God, I think so.
'Cause if H. John Benjamin was in it, I would imagine Sam was in it at some point.
I'm looking it up right now.
Me too. Let's see. I'm not seeing it.
Going to the IMDb.
I'm just on Sam Cedar's Wikipedia page.
It's
Yeah, I don't
not
see it.
listed on his IMDb.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not seeing
H.
it.
John Benjamin was a child during this show. But it's really funny. It's a show that I think of all the time. And they did the one that I remember the most is actually like a Jim Gaffigan bit from that, where he's talking about, I don't even know why, but he's talking about a manatee on Ricky Lake, and like just this manatee being ridiculed by the audience for not having a job, and he's like, I live underwater though. And they animate their thoughts, like their routines, and so you see this manatee being, sitting there being ridiculed by people on Ricky Lake, and I just kind of love that idea.
Hey, H. John Benjamin was like 29 when this show started.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. It started in 95 and he was born in 66. So
oh my God,
29.
he sounded so young in that. I thought he was like a baby.
Well, I mean, he probably sounded young, but also it might have been because of the technology itself, because the technology makes people sound different back then, I guess. So maybe it was both, because he was well into adulthood. I mean, I hope my voice when I'm 29 still sounds the same or similar when I'm 50. I know my voice now still sounds the same as it did when I was like 15. So
yeah, I feel like that guy must have smoked like a pack a day for like 10 years or something.
Oh yeah, that probably could be it too, because
his voice dropped.
Yeah, because if he's quit smoking, that probably has some sort of effect on your voice, because it definitely has an effect on your lungs. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's forever. Yeah, it's weird to me because my parents are. So I think both Sam and him were born the same year. My parents were born in 61. But
oh wow, your parents are older than my parents.
I know, like my parents are old and I'm their only child as well. So like they had me late and all that. But like whenever I see Sam Cedar, I remember the first time I saw Sam Cedar, like his actual face, it was 2016, 2017. And I thought he was like in his late 30s, but he was already 50. I was like, whoa, like he looks really, even today, he looks older than he did 5 years ago. But like even today, Sam Cedar does not look like he's getting close to 60. He looks like he's aged very well, just like my parents. My parents, no one's assuming my parents are 60 when they see them. They're at least thinking late 30s or something like that, or early 40s, because my parents, they look really good for their age. And well, I guess it's because of the whole black don't crack thing. So
yeah.
Because I don't look 24, but I'm 24.
Yeah.
I've been 24 for quite a while, just 2 months.
Yeah.
But like but like I still get mistaken, even with the mustache, I still get mistaken for being like a 15 or 16-year-old a lot.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I get mistaken for being in my 20s a lot, which is weird. My hair's starting to go gray now. It's more and more rapid every year. It was like 25, 26. I started to notice a couple of little gray hairs here and there. And now that I'm 34, I see them constantly. And but they've formed in such a way, and I have enough hair volume that no one really notices except for me. But it's awkward to explain that I was born in the 1980s to people sometimes. And getting carded buying a pack of cigarettes or something, like, oh my god.
Oh
Yeah, no,
no, that's crazy. They don't
oh
even
my
think you're
god.
21?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. Well, I
that's
think
insane.
they have a thing here where they have to card you until you look 40.
Oh, okay.
So I don't look anywhere close to 40
Well,
yet,
that's even
which
weird.
I
Like
guess it's good. Yeah.
well, that's weird to me how, because I know what is it? At the movie theater I go to, the sign says if the person looks under 25 and they're purchasing tickets to see a rated R movie, you have to ask them for their ID. I don't understand the point in that because, like, if a person, first of all, that's a very like broad thing. You cannot look 25, but also definitely look like you're over the age of 17.
Yeah.
So I never understood that. Like, it's like, to me, it's like, I understand if you think that they're not 17 and you want to card them, but saying if they don't look 25 or older, card them. It's like,
Yeah.
huh? But yeah, but no, the 40 thing, that doesn't make any sense at all, because if you have to be 21 to buy cigarettes, why say card everyone that looks like they might not be older than 40? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
Like,
I have no idea. Well, because maybe you'll get like a child that looks old. I feel like that happens now and again.
true, but
Because
if
like
there's
like anyone around 21 could either be
either
21 or like
or
17. And
yeah,
it
because
goes either way. Like I've seen people with
yeah.
like big ass beards that are like 16, and it's like, okay, fine, yeah, sure, be 16. Like,
Yeah, because my joke with because I'm a substitute teacher, my joke with students when they try to say when I like, usually on the roll sheets, I'll know what grade they're in. So I'll have an
yeah.
idea of how old they actually are. And some occasionally one of them will try to say that like they're 17 or 18 or 19, and I know for a fact they're not. And then I'll just say to them, you look like you're younger than me. And if you look like you're younger than me, you definitely are not 18, okay? And then it'll get a laugh at everybody, and it's funny. But yeah, like I know, because that's the thing with like being a college student as well, because I'm also a college student, but I'm not on campus often. But when I am,
Yeah.
and because I've substitute taught for 2 years now, high schoolers, and I know for a fact that I'm one of the older students on campus. I'm 24.
Yeah.
I'll be walking around and I'll just see students, and I'm like, okay, any of these people, I know that they're probably 18, 19, 20 years old, but if they also told me they were a junior in high school, I would believe them because they all look like they
Yeah.
could easily be, students of mine in class. Like, they just look young to me, and I look younger
Yeah.
to them, but still, like, but no, I never understood the whole, if they don't look older than 20, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, especially with the 40 thing, because if
Yeah.
someone looks old, like, if you're having to question whether or not someone looks like they're older than 40 but not 21, I don't know, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But either way,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
odd.
Hannibal Buress had a great bit about that too. He was like, I go to the club and I get carded, and he's like, just look into my eyes. Do I look like I have the soul of a 21-year-old? It's like, does it look like I've got any happiness left in here? And like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, please just look at me. And I'm covered in tattoos. There's no way that I could possibly be younger
Hey,
than
you
20
never
year old.
know, some of these kids be out here getting tattoos.
They
'Cause
gotta
I
have a
know
lot of money.
I've had students, they get tattoos and they're like 16, 15 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
had
who's
a couple
letting you get
tattoos.
these, but okay.
I had a couple tattoos before I turned 18, but not to the extent that I have
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Yeah.
but no, that's wild that people think that you're that you're still, not to say that you look old or anything, but
Yeah.
that you still get carded for stuff like that is weird to me because I'm like,
Yeah.
you look older than me for sure. But but I still get carded to see rated R movies at
Oh
movie
my God.
theaters, at movie theaters that I've been to my entire life. I mean, I
Oh
know all the
no.
people that work there now, so they know me. But whenever the pandemic started, they had to fire people and then rehire people. So
Yeah.
last year, whenever things opened back up and I started going to the movies, so there's new people there who didn't know me at the time, and they were carding me to see rated R
Oh
movies. And I was just like, this is
no.
embarrassing. I'm
Oh
23.
no.
Like, I know for a fact that I don't know for a fact that I look older than 17, but but also the context in which I'm usually going to the movies alone, and
Yeah.
it's at a time usually that most teenagers wouldn't be out or something like that, like.
Yeah.
And so it's always weird to me because it's like, okay, how many teenagers do you know are going to the movies by themselves and driving themselves and all that, to the point where you think I didn't do that? I don't know. It's just
It's
there's
just
so many
another
different.
teenage behavior.
Yeah, and like, but a lot of teens, they're usually not going to the movies by themselves, or if they're younger than 17 and driving themselves, there's like 1 year that they can be able to do that. So if I'm driving myself to see the movie and I'm going by myself, wouldn't you already assume I'm probably older than 17? Because most teenagers aren't probably going by themselves and driving themselves. I don't know. There's just a lot that goes into that makes me think, like, really? Like, they really think that I'm not, it's funny. But what else was I gonna mention? There's something else. I can't remember now. But mm-mm. Let's see. What else was I gonna mention? Was I gonna ask? Um, so you said that you're also a filmmaker of some sorts.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What have you made, or what do you wish to make in the future?
So I have been doing a lot of screenwriting in the past couple of years. It's something that started right before the pandemic, and so my friends and I, including my aforementioned friend Kevin, that I worked with them starting comedy shows. We started working on a film back in 2019 that I had written. Kind of a big upheaval time. My apartment had flooded, and I had kind of lost everything except for my laptop, a base, and a TV.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of like kicking it on somebody's couch, and I switched jobs that year. I worked at a university for a long time, and I left. And so I started writing a movie, and it was one that I had had in my head since I was an undergrad. Um, so one of my best friends, Avery Jackson, is somebody who's also interested in doing research on right-wing extremism, and him and I spent a lot of time talking about that and working on those kinds of little projects. Avery was sitting with me. Avery, tall black guy, football player, also a mechanical engineer. Well, I'm a chemical engineer, he's a mechanical engineer, but we all kind of did our homework together in the engineering school. Because engineering school, you don't party, you just do homework together.
Hmm.
It's just kind of how that goes. And so Avery and I were sitting together, working on a homework assignment in undergrad, and somebody came up to us, and the college that we went to, University of New Haven, had a ghost hunting club. And they said to us, "Hey, would you guys like to go ghost hunting?" I was an older student, like you were. I was 25 when I started undergrad. So now I'm like 27 at the time. I was married. I'm divorced, but I was, I got to finish my homework and then go to work, and then I do have, somebody to go home to. And Avery did not look up from his computer, and he just kept typing, and he said, "Black people don't go ghost hunting." And that was his only comment.
Felt like that was coming.
And I was like, that's the movie that needs to get made. Because there's always this thing with the slasher movies. It's always like the black guy dies first. And I'm like, I don't think he'd be in that building. Like, I think he would have been like, nope, that's fucking stupid. Like, I'm not going there. I'm not going in the haunted place. And like, I grew up as a white kid in a black neighborhood. I grew up going to movies, predominantly black audience. And, I feel like white people, including myself, sit there in horror movies and are just like, yeah, that makes sense. Go into the haunted place. You're curious. And then black people are like, no, don't. Why would you go in there? Like, get out of that closet. Get out of that fucking closet. And so I was like, that needs to be a movie. But I was waiting for a long time. And Kevin and I met around 2017 or 2018. When I had first started doing comedy. And Kevin was that guy that was like the nope guy. Like he was the guy that you're like, hey, Kevin, do you want to see pictures of my kids? And he's like, no.
Really? Okay.
Like, Kevin is the no to everything guy. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. I was like, Kevin is the guy that I need to write this movie about. And so I'm like, okay, like, how would I write Kevin into this scenario? And so, it's 5 people. The rest of them are, white people, and they're like, Kevin, come with us to this, stupid thing out in the woods. Like, and they get there, and he sees like this abandoned building, and he goes, no, I'm going home. He's like, that's bullshit. Serial killers are racists. He's like, Charles Manson had a whole ass swastika on his forehead. I'm leaving. Like, and so Kevin goes home and has a normal day. And so now it's like juxtaposing shots in between Kevin's day of like eating cheesecake and masturbating and taking a shit, and everyone else being mercilessly butchered by, this serial killer, who turns out to be me at the end. We had somebody else that was set to be the serial killer. And I wanted another queer person. I wanted another like kind of bubbly queer person to be the serial killer. So when there's that question, there's always that question for the serial killer at the end. The lone survivor's like, why are you doing this? And like, we got to that point at the end, and the girl's like, why are you doing this? And I'm just like, I just saw it on the internet, and I don't know, just thought I might give it a shot. I just figured I could go out in the woods. I'd find some random kids that were alone. And you know what? You should get some better friends, because they've all left you to die at this point.
I think the funnier ending would be the motive. The killer is actually a black person, and they say the reason why they did it is because they shouldn't have walked in. That should be the reason. That's it. And then Kevin, he finds out, and he's just like, I told y'all. And yeah, that would actually be the real funny ending to that.
I like that. So the way it ends now is that Kevin is sitting at home on his own and sees the news feed, and the body bags being dragged out, and just says, fucking white people.
That's still a good ending though. Yeah.
My original thought for what the killer was going to do was a toddler.
Okay. Why that?
Because it's the last thing that you would expect. And I wanted the killer to be like something that seems so harmless. And so I was like, let me pick like a demographic of people that just like ordinarily you just wouldn't picture be doing a whole lot of serial killing. And so I thought of queer people and toddlers, and that was kind of what I had kind of ruled it down to. Yeah, it just the way the filming worked out, I ended up being my own killer, which wasn't what I had planned on doing, but it was a lot of fun to direct a movie that I had written, and then also be the serial killer. So we're just about done. We're just about wrapped filming that. It's a short, probably ship it out to some festivals, but I'm working on a bunch of other shorts with a few different friends of mine. And then there's been occasions, I can't say for who, but there's occasions where people will ask me to help them write things to submit to something larger. And so it's been interesting. It's not something that I expected myself to do as a comedian. It's just something I kind of fell into, but I am more into horror movies than I am anything else. And so it felt kind of like a right choice for like artistic expression. I always liked movies because I grew up listening to, I grew up watching a lot of movies, especially horror movies, and especially like horror comedy movies. Like Evil Dead 2 is kind of like a shining moment in my childhood. The laughing scene with the deer on the wall and everything else kind of blew my mind as a kid.
Were you ever into that movie that was inspired by that Slipknot music video?
There was a movie inspired by a Slipknot music video?
Yeah, I believe it's called The Shining. It goes the other way around, actually. But I like phrasing it that way with people to trip them up.
Which Slipknot music video?
It was Spit It Out.
To be honest, you know what? I don't think it's really funny. That video definitely came out when I was in like 8th grade, and I definitely had that self-titled record and wore it the fuck out. I listened to that CD a million times, but for some reason, like MTV would not show the music videos back then. Like Slipknot was like almost like too much for MTV, so you wouldn't really see like a lot of Slipknot videos.
Unless it was like late at night or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would see like Korn, you would see Mudvayne, you would see Mushroomhead, you would see.
They would play Mushroomhead and Mudvayne in like prime time, like during the day. That's pretty
You would
crazy.
see them at night, limited for. They have like some metal shows.
Yeah, but it was Metal Mayhem. For some reason,
like
and Headbangers Ball. Yeah,
they had started that like around the time that Slipknot had put Iowa out.
Yeah,
and so like that self-titled record, like the videos that came out for that, I know that they exist, but I don't think I've ever actually seen them. And it was, that was such a weird time because you would see like these bands that I think did not age incredibly well that were like new metal bands, and they would get a little bit more prime time. Korn definitely got a lot of prime time.
Yeah, they were on TRL.
Yeah. Them, Deftones definitely.
Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park.
Limp Bizkit was Linkin Park. Who else? Incubus. I feel like I always saw.
Yeah.
Incubus, I still love to this day, like so much. Anti-Gravity Love Song is probably like peak music for me. But I feel like also like Disturbed and Godsmack, who I just do not feel like aged well at all.
How have they not aged well? Explain that one to me.
All right. So like the first time I heard Disturbed, I was like, all right, this is cool, this is weird, this is like something interesting. And now when I think of Disturbed, I think of like racist guys on motorcycles. And I think part of that is that I have seen many racist guys on motorcycles listening to Disturbed.
Yes.
And so now that's just like, that is my association. It's like the 5-finger death punch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, okay, every guy that listens to that
the memes
has a leather jacket with Monster Patch or something, you know.
The memes that people make up about bands is funny to me sometimes, because what is it like? The one that they say about 5-finger death punch, people say that everyone who listens to 5-finger death punch is like in the military or is a military wife. And so every time now when I meet someone who's like in the military, I always ask them, especially if they're like my age or like a little older, I say, oh, are you a fan of 5-finger death punch? Rarely ever is that answer really? Yes. Because it's because most of the stuff is most of the time when people say these things about bands, it's mostly memes or like weird associations based on like one thing the band said or did. Because like I think 5-finger death punch, they've played a lot for the troops and stuff overseas, but there's other bands that have done that too. But 5-finger death punch,
those guys are like actual hardcore right wingers too.
Oh yeah, most
to my knowledge
in the band, yeah. Because if you look at some of the likes on, I think one of their guitarists, if you look at some of the likes on his Twitter account, it's like right-wing stuff. Yeah, and what else? They had some music videos a couple of years ago making fun of like people wearing masks during the pandemic. It's pretty like, yeah,
rough.
it's bad stuff. Like I like
Wow,
Five
they
Finger
went.
Death. Like I like a lot of their music. So like I listen to them, but I
Yeah.
don't always, like what they, put out politically necessarily. Same with
Yeah.
like what is his name? Aaron Lewis of Stained.
Oh
Now
yeah,
I
yeah. He's totally cupid.
Yeah, like I had an ounce, I had a little bit of hope for Aaron Lewis because I remember in high school reading that he was a Republican, but he was pro legalizing weed. So I was like, okay, there's something I can work with there. He's not completely lost. But now he's like, we should listen to Putin. And I'm like, okay, dude, like, where are you at now? Like,
It's like, are you
what?
sure?
Like okay, you can just be quiet now, but no, but it's I wouldn't say it's disappointing. Other people are way more disappointed when they find out some of their favorite musicians are like right wingers. I'm not that disappointed when I see it. Not to say I expect it, but I don't come to them for politics. I come to them for the
Yeah.
music. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, that person voted for Trump and thinks January 6th was cool. Okay, when's their next album coming out? I want to hear that. Like that's my
Yeah.
response to that. It's just like okay, with the music though,
Yeah.
because I'm still in a position where I can do that. Like, who is it? All That Remains
Yeah.
band. So their singer has me blocked on Twitter.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, and I tried like 3 years ago when I first started my show. I tried to get him to come on my show for a debate because he's like a libertarian, like hardcore libertarian, and he said no. First, he asked if I would pay him to come on, and I said no, and then he said no, and he didn't block me then, but occasionally I would quote tweet him if he said something political, and I would like dunk on him or like debunk whatever thing he was tweeting.
Yeah.
And eventually he just blocked me because of that. And I didn't even notice either until like one day in 2020, like that summer, I started searching his name. I was like, I haven't seen a tweet from Phil in a while. Well, what's going on with him? And I looked for his account and I was like, wait, did he block me? And then I went on to another account that I have, like my show account, and I can still see his account come up when I search it. And I was like, oh, he blocked me. So yeah, like I thought that was hilarious, but I still listen to All That Remains from time to time.
Yeah.
Because I like All That Remains. And yeah, I thought that's so funny though. And what else? There's something else. He was quoted saying something last year about people, I think it was about cancel culture, freedom of speech or something. So about people being afraid to have someone disagree with them. And I tweeted it and I was like, this guy has me blocked on Twitter for like disagreeing with him politically. like I don't know if he's one to talk about this because I wasn't like tweeting at him every day. It was just like, once every other few weeks or so whenever I saw his tweets. But musicians, when they come out with their politics, I'm not really that like disappointed. I mean, like, is it great? No, but it's not, it's what can you do kind of thing.
It takes a lot. It takes somebody being really awful for me to discount them forever. And I usually won't discount them forever. It's usually like okay, I'll revisit this in a while. Like there are certain comedians that are like canceled or whatever. And I'll still check out what they're doing. I might not like, I'm not gonna, go saying on the internet like, hey, like I'm, going to see Louis C.K. live, but like there's a chance that I'll watch a Louis C.K. video. I just want to know, what is he doing now,
like who else is there? I still watch Bill Maher every week.
Oh,
like not even because I like Bill Maher or anything, but I used to watch him every night, like every week, whenever
Yeah.
I was young with my parents,
Yeah.
and that's so I just still watch him. It's not so much because I like him. I mean, I did when I was younger, but he's, you know, he hasn't kept up with the rest of society since then.
Yeah.
Because I still think people a little bit too hard on Bill sometimes. 'Cause I don't think
Yeah.
he's like some like reactionary entirely. I just think he's not, how do I say this? He's just a boomer, and there's only
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
far you can take some of them with some things, and
Yeah.
that's it. Because at the end of the day, he's not supporting Republicans or voting for Republicans or anything. He's just not as progressive as he should be for the times. And I do think, I don't think he's as funny as I used to think he was back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't find the only thing interesting about his show nowadays is most of the guests he has on are people, not to say I don't like any of them, it's that half of them I don't think they have anything of value to say or that interesting to say. And I think a few years ago I used to say I like watching Bill Maher so I can see what out of touch people have to say, right?
Yeah.
And even now, it's like it's kind of still like that. When he has a politician on, like he had John Tester on this past week, and that was pretty
Mm.
interesting. And occasionally, someone on there says something good, but in general, it's not. Someone needs to put that show to rest, okay? Like someone needs to replace him with someone new and younger and with better, things to say. Because occasionally he has a point, but in general, I just don't think what he does is necessary or that good. Like it kind of peaked after 2016 because he endorsed Bernie in
Yeah.
2016. And
Oh wow, I didn't know
see,
that.
no one
I
knew
never
that.
kept up with him.
Yeah, like
But I guess that doesn't surprise me too much because like I feel like Bernie was one of those people that was able to get a lot of people who like maybe didn't catch up with like more identity politics related issues. Like he still had a broader body of support from people than I think a lot of people expected.
you mean in
While still
2016 or in 20 or just in
in
general?
2016 and 2020, kind of in general, I think and I think somebody who like Bill Maher, who's been watching a lot of just been kind of astute on politics for so many years, like he knew who Bernie Sanders was. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Bernie Sanders was some out of left field guy. Like he was like maybe lesser known as far as people in the Senate go. But I think somebody like Bill Maher was able to recognize him.
Yeah. Um, and then what were we talking about? We're talking about comedians and musicians being canceled. Like Kid Rock, I think, is someone who a lot of people throw out there as like horrible and like a horrible person. And I'll agree with that. Like, I don't think he's a great person at all. I still like some of his earlier music though. Like,
Yeah,
what is
that's
it?
that's
Like,
reasonable.
because he was new metal back in the day, so of course I have to
Yeah,
like some of those songs.
yeah,
In general, I will say this: the song, do you know the song "American Badass" by Kid Rock?
yeah, yeah. Of course.
That song, I heard that song 2 years ago during the pandemic, whenever it started, because I was listening to Sirius XM, and they have a station that just plays metal and hard rock from the 90s and the 2000s. So
Yeah.
basically anything from 1990 to like 2009. And
Okay.
that song was played on there quite a bit. And that was the first time I'd ever heard it. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This song is just a sample of Sad But True
Yep.
played throughout with like horrible, shitty, corny lyrics over it. And I was like, okay,
Yes.
this is the one song someone could have showed me when I was 14 to discount all of nu metal for me. Because I was like, no, like if nu metal, if the only nu metal song anyone had ever heard was that song, I would have said, yeah, I understand why they feel the way they do about nu metal. Because that song is so terrible. Like, not even because it's like, not even because the concept is bad, but because I technically don't consider it to be an actual nu metal song, because it's just a sample of another guitar riff. It's not the same guitar riff being replayed. It's the actual sample of the guitar riff. So I don't really think that constitutes being a rock song per se.
Yeah.
And so to me, so that's the first part. I don't like that because it was just that without, it even took the drum sample from it too. So there was nothing added to the instrumental except for the turntable scratches and the chorus. And then the lyrics are terrible. And he gives a shout out to Korn and Limp Bizkit. And I was like, no, don't do this. This is terrible. But no, that song, I just can't fuck with that song. But a lot of his other stuff from like the Devil Without a Cause album, I like some of that stuff. But other than that, I don't really like a lot of Kid Rock, either him or his music necessarily.
Yeah. He's one of those people that, like, I feel like everyone could have seen him becoming this person.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Like he was always the person that he is now. He is definitely that dude. It's just that I think that we all hoped that he would be better.
Yeah, because I think, well, for some of us, I think, especially, well, I couldn't say this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the late 90s, early 2000s assumed that white guys who were doing the rapping thing were, at least if not explicitly, allies of Black people, were at least, you know, aware of Black people's struggles and respected that and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Kid Rock, no, he does not. Like,
No.
he does not at all. And you know, he grew up rich. He was not poor. He tries to say he grew up poor and working class, but he wasn't. He grew up rich. And if his love for rap, if he does have a love for rap, is not in the same way of you know, like Eminem, it's not so much because he's doing it because I mean, he might have enjoyed rapping and whatnot, but he doesn't do it because he actually likes the craft and wants to become the best at it necessarily. It's kind of just like, I like doing it, I can do it, so I'll do it for a little bit. Not to say that it's not genuine, but it's not from the same place of a lot of other rappers and people who are white and like rap music and stuff like that. And I think, and I mean, I kind of feel that way. I think Kid Rock views all of music that way, not so much just rap music, but all music that way, because I don't really think he's just doing what he does because it gets him the money and the recognition and whatnot. I don't really think he cares that much about the actual music itself. So I don't just mean to say that about him when it comes to rap. I mean that in general.
No, Kid Rock was like one stabbing away from becoming what's his name? Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
He was stabbing one store clerk away from becoming a Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, but no, and then who else is another one? I don't even know anything about Ted Nugent's music or anything. I just know he's like, in a way, he's worse than Kid Rock. I know that much. He, in terms of the things he's said and done, he's worse than Kid Rock.
For sure.
And also, I'm not gonna say he should know better because he's like almost 80, right? So like he grew up in a time where you could call a black person the N-word and no one's gonna like, but still, not to say
You
that
won't lose
like
your
that
job over it in the 60s. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he grew up in a time where being racist wasn't considered being racist. It was just the way things were. And I can understand how some people from back then coming out of that isn't necessarily something they're going to be able to do. So, but not to excuse it, but like with Kid Rock, I feel like he should be better than what he is because he grew up in a time where people were fighting back against racism. Black people were able to have rights. Ted Nugent, on the other hand, not so much, which is why he's worse than Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think
Yeah,
Ted Nugent would approve of rap music.
yeah, no. I think it's interesting that Tom Morello has been able to maintain a
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah.
Because Tom Morello is I'm pretty sure his dad's from Africa.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure his dad's from Africa.
Yeah.
And you know, he's like, but I really liked Wango Tango. So this old racist guy kind of has a weird place in my heart. And like, I don't know.
Well, not just that, but like they're
it's
friends. Wild. Yeah, like
yeah.
I can understand saying like some racist person's music is influential to you.
Yeah.
Because you know, I understand the idea of separating the art from the artist or separating a person's work from who they are as an individual, because those things aren't always connected. It's not explicitly. But like they're friends, not just like that, like, and that blows my mind. Like I'm just like, I guess, hey, if Tom Morello is good with that, then maybe there's something there that we're missing or not seeing, or I don't know, because that's like wild to me. Because but no, who's another one? I remember Scott Stapp of Creed. He went on Fox News like back when Obama was president and was saying all sorts of crazy stuff. Oh yeah, there's clips out there. I'm sure he was saying all sorts of crazy stuff about Obama back in the day.
I thought he would be dead.
Well,
like I just didn't know what happened to him.
There was a brief point in time a few years, I say a few, this when I was in high school, it was like 2013, 2014, where he went missing and was like on drugs or something.
That I remember.
Yeah, and you know, I think he's clean now. And you know, I think Creed was going to go on tour a few years ago, but then the pandemic stopped it or something. I don't know. But
it's better that they didn't.
I mean, if Creed was on tour, I would be tempted to go see them if they came to Oklahoma City. I like Creed's music, at least the first 3 albums. I don't like the album they put out in 2009.
I think there was only one song that I liked from them, but I will admit that it's a good song, and it's the one that they put on the Scream 3 soundtrack.
I don't know which song that would be. Well, no, I might have an idea. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Because they had a music video for it. And
yeah.
I actually feel like that soundtrack, like it is one of the most nu metal soundtracks ever. And
Scream 3,
much every song. Yeah, pretty much every song on that one is good.
Let's see. In terms of most nu metal soundtracks, you say. This one I haven't really heard much about. Because usually when people bring up nu metal soundtracks, they bring up Queen of the Damned. What other ones? I can't think of some of the other ones right now. Let me see.
I think that Scream 3 is better than all of those. And I'm not trying to disparage Queen of the Damned, but I think that Scream 3, both as a movie and like soundtrack wise, better.
So I'm looking it up right now on Wikipedia. It says it came out in January of 2000, and the genre is just nu metal. So it doesn't even give like 5 different genres of the different songs. It just says nu metal, and then you have What If, Wait and Bleed, Suffocate by Finger 11, Spiders by System. I don't know who American Pearl is.
The only bad song.
Dust. Yeah, go ahead.
The American Pearl song is the only bad one on that record.
It's Crawl by Stain. That's a good one. There's an
Yep.
orgy song. Power Man 5000. Some of these songs I haven't heard before. Tyler's song.
Actually, I would say Full Devil Jacket is not great. In Year 2000, it's not great, but I think outside of that, the rest of the album still pretty good.
Some of these songs I haven't heard before, but most of these I've heard. Like, I have all of them on their respective albums that exist from the bands, like Spiders and Tyler's song by Cold Chambers. Yeah.
The Dissension's definitely off the first Orgy record.
Yeah, I've probably heard it. I just don't remember it off the top of my head because I know I've heard Blue Monday. I've listened to that a million
it's
times.
on that same record.
It's on that album,
It's track number 3. Because I definitely listened to that one too many times. There's another one. So there was a movie called Strangeland, directed by Dee Snider. And that is another very new metal soundtrack. But it also
1998. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. Soundtrack.
It also has like Megadeth and Pantera on it. So like.
Oh yeah, this is really good. So it has Seven Dust. It's got Snot. It's got Cold Chamber, Soulfly, Head PE. It's got Fuck Off with Kid Rock and Eminem. Yeah,
it's got a System of a Down song that doesn't exist on any other record either.
Yeah, Marmalade. I've never even heard of that one.
It's only on that record. There's definitely copies of it floating around YouTube, but it's the only place you can find it.
So it's not even on Apple Music or iTunes?
I don't know, but it's not on Spotify. That much I will say.
Because I hate it when that happens, where you can't find a specific soundtrack, or some soundtracks they'll even have certain songs taken off, so you can't like download them or stream them. Yeah, Strangeland is not on Apple Music.
I think the Bride of Chucky soundtrack also had a similar thing going on, where they had a couple of deep cuts. I know they had one from Cold Chamber, which didn't appear on a regular Cold Chamber record until they did their like greatest
Blisters
hits.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, there's some good ones on there.
Static X. Blood for Days by Static X is such a good song.
Yeah, that's actually probably my favorite one off of Wisconsin Death Grip. So I was pretty.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. Like, let me see what else is on that album. Let's see.
I don't think I've gone back to listen to that in a long time.
I bought the CD. I want to say it's 2017 when I bought it, or 2018, somewhere in there. And I mean, obviously, I like Push It and I'm With Stupid. But Blood for Days is really good. It was a single, I think, but it wasn't like it wasn't as big as Push It or I'm With Stupid. And then Sweat of the Bud is a really good one. The Trance is in the Motion. There was another one on here. Maybe I am thinking of Blood for Days, because that's the one where he goes really fast at that one part. Yeah. That is the one I'm thinking of. That's a really good one. But yeah, the old do you know anything about James Brown?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay. So do you know this? You've probably seen my tweets about this, so you probably already looked into this if you haven't. You know the song Funky Drummer by James Brown, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I do you know the lore around that song and how it's been sampled a
No.
billion times? Okay, so it's been sampled a billion times, mostly in like old school hip hop songs. So like
Okay.
Public Enemy has sampled it at least 15 different times. Um, Run DMC has sampled it like 3 or 4 times. I could go
Yeah. There's
on. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever gone to
Yep,
whosampled, but there's
that's
actually
my
like
favorite. Yeah,
okay.
that's where I learned all this. Yeah, I have the app
Yeah.
and
Sampled in 1,749 songs.
yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's funny because it's sampled in mostly hip hop songs. There's a few other like pop songs that have it. There's some like techno electro songs or whatever that have sampled it too. But there's only been one metal song that I know of that has ever sampled it, and it's Korn, Kick the PA, which is on
Oh,
the
on the Spawn soundtrack.
yes, and that's the only place where you can get it because it wasn't on an album. And I downloaded it, and it's like the only Korn song I've listened to a whole lot within the last like 3 months. Because it's
Yeah.
and it's funny because I started looking into James Brown's music because I didn't know he created funk music. I just knew he was like a funk artist, but like I didn't know he was like one
Yeah.
of the instrumental people in the creation of funk. And I started listening to a lot of his older songs, and then I started comparing those songs to a lot of early Korn songs.
Yeah.
And I remember one morning I sat and just listened to the first two Korn albums all the way through. And I was just like, these all sound like they could easily just be James Brown songs, but metal. Like
Yeah.
the drumming is the same, it's the same style of drumming.
Yep.
And what is it? To the like most of Korn's riffs back then were kind of funk riffs. There were some mixture of like death metal meets funk meets groove metal-ish type riff. So like there's a lot of that. And then there's the bass slapping. Sure, there wasn't bass slapping in any James Brown songs, at least not for the most part. But that's still the extra funk element to it. And then Jonathan Davis, not to say that he sings like James Brown, but it's kind of a similar dynamic where in James Brown's funk songs, his voice isn't necessarily a melodic thing, it's more of a percussive thing. And in
Yeah.
Jonathan Davis's vocal style, it's kind of the same thing. Give or take a few songs here and there. But I'm listening to, and then the breakdowns in Korn songs are kind of similar to breakdowns in old funk songs. We wouldn't call
Yeah.
them breakdowns back then, but and I was just like, oh my God, like this is all just like copy and pasted, like James Brown influence. And I never picked up on it, but now I can't unhear it. So now every time I
Yeah.
listen to what's the one song that like perfectly encapsulates this is Predictable by Korn on the first
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
If you speed that song up, that's a James Brown song. Like that's what it is. And I can't unhear that now whenever I think of that song because it's but no, I thought that was insane when I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, James Brown was just this influential that I'm listening to this and I can only hear James Brown. And
Yeah.
the song Kick the PA, it has the drum sample of Funky Drummer playing throughout, and their drummer is playing along with it.
Yeah.
And I know it's the sample, but I can't help think to myself, like, this just sounds like a regular Korn song. Like it doesn't really sound like anything was added to this, even though there's the sample. But yeah, it's super interesting. But no, I say all that to say I'm surprised actually that more new metal bands didn't sample that song, because that was you know, a part of all of their childhoods. They probably heard that song, either that specific song or heard it sampled a billion times because they were all
Yeah.
influenced by 80s rap. So I'm surprised that only one new metal song from back then. Oh, and then the other thing is Limp Bizkit's drummer, John Otto, he just sounds like Clyde Stubblefield, which was James Brown's drummer from like 65 to 70, who was on Funky Drummer. And so now when I listen to old Limp Bizkit, I think, oh, this is kind of not that it's entirely James Brown, but the drumming is still like an old school James Brown song. Anyway, sorry, I went on forever.
No,
You
no,
have
no.
something to say.
I love like finding those connections. Like I remember, so I didn't really grow up on the Beatles and stuff. I grew up, my mom was big on like country and 80s pop, and my dad was big on punk and like early metal and like new wave. Dad really liked a lot of experimental stuff, big Frank Zappa fan. Um, and I definitely brought a lot of musical taste from my dad, as far as that stuff goes. But my mom also was listening to like a lot of like Earth, Wind, and Fire and Al Green, a lot of this like soul stuff that I probably makes up a bigger body of what I listen to now.
Sly
But,
Stone and the Sly and the Family Stone too.
oh my God, yeah, all of that. And yeah, my mom had a very eclectic taste, but there was a lot of this like funk and soul and disco and stuff that I would kind of pick up from her. Whereas my dad was listening to like the Dead Kennedys and like Frank Zappa and like Adam and the Ants and like uh but he was really big on Black Sabbath. And so I remember hearing, Paranoid like when I was really young. And as I got older, I decided to dig through all of the back catalogs of artists that, I have heard were good, but I didn't really pay attention to. And so, I'm like 16, 17, 18, listening back through like the whole Beatles back catalog. And I hear what is it? I Want You, She's So Heavy by the Beatles for the first time. And that song is like you could hear Black Sabbath
Mm-hmm.
in that song. Like especially because they have this like breakdown part with these like slow, crunchy guitars, and it's like this is gonna turn into doom metal in 20 years.
Right? Yeah.
And so I kind of love that. Like I literally talking to my partner about it earlier tonight. Like it's like I love that shit. Like I love when like you can hear something start in music and it never ends because somebody else he's gonna hear that thing and be like, oh, what if I took that but I did like this thing with it? Like
Yeah.
and I mean that like we've all always been doing that with music. Like that's what people do when you make music. Like you take things that you've heard and you kind of do them in a little bit of a different way and you find some new thing that you can do with it. And none of those ideas are original. They're great, but they're never
Yeah.
perfectly
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, because I was saying this to my friend. He was a music major, so he has a music degree. So I remember saying to him something about how a lot of the students I have in class, they don't know who Lord is.
Oh,
Right? Like now you feel even older because I've told you that. But I feel old whenever but it's also weird because it's like it feels like Lord wasn't popular that long ago. But
yeah.
anyway,
Like 8 years ago?
yeah, like 2014, I think 2015, probably the last time she was really popular. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
What year did Royals come out?
oh, that was 2012. Like you're talking about 10 years ago.
It
I
was
think,
really that long ago.
yeah, because I
The
was,
2013 release. Yeah. Holy shit.
yeah, because I was like a sophomore in high school when that came out. But I was surprised that they didn't know who Lord was, but they know who Billie Eilish is. And so what was it I was saying? And people say this all the time online. You've probably seen this. People say Lord wouldn't have existed without Lana Del Rey. Lord or Billie Eilish wouldn't have existed without Lord, you know, kind of like artists that have similar vibes with their music and aesthetic give birth to other.
Yeah.
And so I remember saying, I think with my friend, I was talking about this and I took it back further. I said, before Lana Del Rey, there was, I don't know, I think I said like Kelly Clarkson or Pink or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I said, and then before that, we had what's her name? She had the song Criminal. Fiona
Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fiona Apple's, I mean, she's still around.
Yeah. And then before her, we had Alanis Morissette, even though I guess there's some overlap there, but Alanis Morissette was technically after. And then he responded back to me and he said, whoa, like music doesn't just exist in a linear fashion. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's just like, oh, well, not all like music is like a direct reincarnation of another thing. And I'm just like, and then I like someone was recording this and I have to get this recording because it was so funny. I responded back to him. I was like, oh yeah, will you tell me why funk music doesn't exist anymore? And then it was the way that I said it, it was just so funny. And then he like couldn't even articulate a response. And then I said, there's been a main, like he said, funk music still exists. And I was like, not in the mainstream. There's been a mainstream funk song that was popular since within like the last 25 years. And even before that, we're really just talking about like James Brown in like the early 80s or something. And, you know, I was thinking about how, like, I think I even mentioned how jazz pretty much in the mainstream became not a thing because of funk and soul. And then funk and soul became not a thing anymore in the mainstream because of hip hop and R&B. And now today we just have hip hop and R&B. We've pretty much had those two. I guess R&B exists at the same time as soul, but you get what I'm saying. Like it,
yeah,
we don't have, no one really calls himself a soul artist anymore. I mean, I guess you have some artists that are classified as neo soul, but
yeah, but that's like a totally different thing still.
Yeah, for the most part now we just have like R&B that's, you know, hip hop influenced, and then there's a whole thing about that that's kind of technical. But either way, but for the last 35, 40 or so years, we just have hip hop and R&B, but we used to have funk and soul. And yeah, and I explained that to him, and he's like, well, yeah, but like, you know, whatever, like we still have classical music today, but it's
but
not. And then I said to him, I was like, but even the classical music today that is being made isn't the same genre as the old classical music from like the 1800s. It's given a different name, and sure, it has some of the same influences as that stuff, but it's not quite the same. And he said, yeah. And I was like, so I'm correct, you cannot rebut this. And yeah, I understood what he was trying to say, but at the same time, I think my point is that everything comes from something, and there's nothing that's just kind of like 100% new and original and completely made up. And to the extent that there is, it's to the extent that there is something new and made up, it's mixed with something that was already there.
Yeah,
because like all hip hop is samples of old funk drums. And
yeah, it started with funk and disco samples.
Exactly, yeah, because what is it, what's considered to be the first hip-hop song is Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. Now some people say that it's a sample, that the instrumental is a sample of Good Times by Chic.
Yeah,
but it's not, it's actually instruments playing that stuff, but it's sampled or it's a loop. but they actually have like, but it's not a sample. In the same way that what are some of the other songs that are kind of like that? This is kind of a deep cut, but there's a song by Beastie Boys on Paul's Boutique called Shadrach. Yeah. And the two main samples in that are Loose Booty by Sly and the Family Stone and Funky Drummer. And
Yeah.
so, like, but at the end of the day, still, all of hip hop, at least back in the day, it was not original at all. And
No.
the
Yeah. No.
in like the further you go in 80s hip hop, it comes to a point where it's mostly just samples and it's very little original beats. Because what was it? Public Enemies, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Even on Wikipedia, it says the genres, it's golden age hip hop, and then Samplepedia, because it's like a huge compilation of samples upon samples.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then once the copyright laws changed in the early to mid 90s, they kind of had to start being a little bit more original with the beats. But the same thing was there. If there was an original beat, it was kind of to the style of an old like funk drumming and stuff like that. And now I guess we have different stuff where we have like the trap beats, which I don't really know what you can say those evolve from. So I guess you could say those are all new and original. But
Yeah, but I feel like those have like so much like EDM influence and stuff.
that's
Um,
true, yeah. And
and
now
then
those are kind of played out because that's all of hip hop now. We
and
call them trap
yeah,
beats because we know where that came from, 10 years ago. But now that's just modern hip hop now. It's not even
yeah,
really, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, Kanye got a lot more experimental too. I mean, like, at first he's sampling a lot of like old soul and jazz and R&B records, and then like and old funk records, and he starts to move on. And then, by the time he does Yeezus, he's sampling nothing but fucking prog rock. Like I think a lot of the samples on that album are from oh my god, King Crimson.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah, which is it's just like one of those things that seems like so far out of left field for hip hop, but it's like and I didn't even pick up on that on my own. I remember one night I was listening to NPR or something. It was around when that album came out, and somebody was doing a review, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's like King Crimson samples all over this," and I was like, "Hold on, I'm gonna listen to that record again."
Yeah. Because what was it? Um, there's a Public Enemy song on that album that I mentioned. The two samples in it, and this is the entire instrumental. It's Angel of Death, uh what people consider to be the breakdown. I don't really think it's a breakdown, but the breakdown in Angel of Death by Slayer,
Mhm.
and the drum loop from Funky Drummer. And that's the entire instrumental. And I'm just like, I
Wait,
remember
which song is this? Because I feel like
She Watches Channel Zero is the name of the song. And it's on their second album.
Brownout. No, 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 no. Wait, she watched Channel Zero.
Yeah.
Why do I not know this? I'm like kind of in shock. I feel like
Right? Because at the
this should
time,
have occurred to me.
yeah, like I remember looking it up whenever I saw it, and I was like, this sounds like the most wildest concept for an instrumental. And then I actually listened to the song and I was like, oh, that's the whole instrumental, is that, outside of like some turntable scratches in the chorus, but that's the whole song and then vocals over it. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like, you wouldn't have that today. You couldn't have that today. But back then that
Yeah.
was like and also the even cooler part about it is Rick Rubin produced the Public Enemy album and Rain and Blood. So like,
Rick Rubin's hands are in everything,
oh yeah,
including
like
Kanye West and Fiona Apple from earlier.
yeah, like I thought that was so cool because the like today the modern equivalent to that, you could even come up with a modern equivalent to that because there's no people don't sample stuff like they used to anymore, or to the extent that they do, it's not really samples. Like a lot of record producers and DJs, they'll just reuse the same beats but change up the like way that the instrumentation sounds a little. Because I know Take Keith, he's like a hip-hop producer.
Mhm.
He has, okay, there's like 3 or 4 different songs here. um he produced the song Not Alike by Eminem and Royce da 5'9" on Kamikaze back in 2018. If you listen to that and then you listen to he also produced a song called Look Alive by Block Boy JB, I think the artist's name is, and Drake. It's the same beat, but it's certain things are changed differently to sound a little bit different, but it's essentially the same beat. It just sounds like the tone's different a little bit. Like if you listen to those 2 songs, you'll hear what I'm talking about. Or what's the other 2 songs he has that this is like? Oh, this is one of my favorite ones to bring up with people because these are both equally famous songs. So there's maybe not equally famous, but pretty big songs. So there's a song called Nonstop by Drake, and that has a whole beat that Take Heath produced. And then the Drake part in what's that song? It's a Travis Scott song. It's the one that was super popular like in 2018.
Oh God, I'm not totally sure.
Let me see. It's on Astro World.
Song called Sicko Mode.
Yes, that's it. So the Drake part in
Okay.
Sicko Mode, when the beat switches up, when Drake comes in, it sounds very similar to the beat in Nonstop by Drake. And I listen to that, I'm just like, am I the only person who's noticed this? Because this is pretty obvious if you just listen to these songs. So you don't really have sampling anymore. You just have art, you just have music producers who will make the same song or the same beats for a song, but just change up small parts. And anybody who listens to these songs for like 10 seconds can notice that's what they did. The only thing I can think of, that's the only time I've ever seen something like that happen, is Dr. Dre. He had a song, you know, the song Family Affair by Mary J. Blige?
Yes.
So the beat to that song is also the same or similar beat to Drop the Bomb on 'Em by Eminem, which came out in 2009. But the difference is the Eminem beat is a little bit faster, but it's the same like rhythm and everything happening in the song. And it's just a little bit more upbeat than the Mary J. Blige song. That's the only thing I can ever think of beforehand that was similar to that, outside of like sampling. And then the equivalent to that back in the day would have been me getting Rebel Without a Pause by Public Enemy and Terminator X to the Edge of Panic by Public Enemy confused because they both have that saxophone sample from The Grunt by the JBs. Because, you know, that, but the difference is it's not the same exact, it's the same exact part. It's just in Terminator X, they do something to it to make it sound kind of different. I think they get the trail off part as opposed to the part going up because it's a long little thing. But no, but that's interesting to me is the only thing we would ever have that's close to that nowadays when it comes to sampling is just a producer using their own beats, but changing them up a little bit as opposed to sampling. Because I guess it would be kind of cool to hear the beat to like Mercy by Kanye West over the like riffs in what's some song that has a cool riff from like the last 10 years, like Bleed by Meshuggah or something. Like,
oh wow, yeah.
Like that would be the equivalent to that nowadays if someone were to do what they did and She Watches Channel Zero, but no one's ever going to do that now because no one's thinking of that. Even though that'd be so cool. That would be really cool to see that though.
I mean, there was a time, I want to say probably more than 10 years ago, where somebody made an album that was called Fugazi 13 Chambers, and it's 13 songs by Fugazi and 36 chambers by Wu-Tang Clan smashed together.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah, this is on the Who Sampled documentary I watched, I think.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, it floats around the internet. I think it's probably, there's a SoundCloud. Yeah, there's a SoundCloud for it, but it's also somebody put it on YouTube. So but that's like one of my favorite things ever. It's something I never would have pictured.
It's an interesting concept. Or what is it? Another one of my favorite things is the crossover album that Jay-Z and Linkin Park did like 18 years ago. That is a really cool concept too. And we're never going to get anything like that ever again, which
no, probably not.
And I really liked it. I've met a couple of people who said they didn't like it, but I really liked it because outside of I never really liked the song Encore mixed with Numb. I guess it's because I never liked Numb. Or not never liked Numb, but like after I heard other songs by Linkin Park, I didn't really care for Numb anymore. But like other than that, the other 5 songs in there I really liked.
They're great. Yeah. That was a moment of world peace that we may never get back again.
No kidding. Like that was so good. Like the equivalent to that now would be what if who is a big metal band? Like if Spirit Box did something with like who's a big rapper who's like younger now. What 21 Savage?
I don't even know if I know Spirit Box. I'm like
Spirit Box. Oh, okay. Spirit Box. I feel like they're really new.
I'll have to check them out. I feel like I'm not keeping up as well lately. Like I think
they have a song called Constance that was really huge last year.
I'll have to check them out.
They're really good. They're like a alternative metal band mixed with modern metalcore mixed with old school Lacuna Coil-esque gothic metal. It's a whole mixture of things. Yeah, because like Constance, the song Constance, which is my favorite song by them, that feels like something off of Coma Lies in 2002. Like, you know who Lacuna Coil is, don't you? Right? Yeah. Like that Constance feels like it could have easily had been something Lacuna Coil made in 2002 because it feels like kind of like What's the one song? It kind of feels like Heaven's Alive, but it also kind of feels like what's Humane and what's one of the songs later on the album? No. I'll figure it out. Hold on.
Thinking about 2002 is absolutely insane to me right now. Like,
No, don't do it.
God,
It'll make you feel old. It makes me
I
feel
already
like
feel old.
it makes me feel like neutral because I remember 2002, but I was also 4. But you
Yeah,
were
I
like what,
was in high
15?
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was in high school. I
The
2002, yeah, was the year
Ghost.
I turned 15, and so I was listening to. I think that was the year that Queens of the Stone Age did the record with Dave Grohl,
Oh, okay.
which I still listen to all the time. It's Songs for the Deaf. I'm trying to see what year it came out because I want to say it's 2002. Oh, yep, August 27th, 2002. Uh, yeah, I was listening to that a lot, and I definitely was listening to. Uh, I want to say Every Time I Die put out Hot Damn that year too, but that might
Some
have been
deep cuts out
2003.
there.
Yeah, let's see.
But no, the other song I
Hot
was thinking
Damn,
of was The Ghost Woman and the Hunter by Lacuna Coil. That's it.
got it.
But yeah,
Yeah,
they have some songs like that, and then they have some songs that are like Periphery and um what's a band from like around that time but
uh,
metalcore.
Periphery is awesome.
Periphery is good, yeah. But no, Spirit Box is really good. You should check them out.
Yeah, I added that song Constance to my playlist, so I'll check it out later. Also, what time are we going until?
Oh, I have no idea. I just thought we would talk, and I pretty much asked all the questions I had, so the conversation's been good.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope that people are have enjoyed themselves. Uh, I don't get to talk about music that often. People are like, "Oh, you're a comedian, you're a scientist. Talk about comedy and science." And I'm like, "Well, I know about other stuff too. I have a
Yeah.
bass I've been playing for 20 years."
Oh, it's so funny because like when students ask me what I do outside of like work or subbing, and I tell them, and they're like, "That's boring. You're an incredibly boring person." I'm like, "Thank you for confirming what I've always thought." Because adults tell me I'm not boring, and I think they're lying to me.
Oh no. Yeah, no, I met somebody a while ago who, you know, uh, had asked me, what I do with my spare time. I said, during the day, I work my day job. I work for a pharmaceutical company, whichever one that is. Um, and at night I'm in grad school, and then I do comedy. And she was like, "So you're funny and boring." I was like, "Fuck, yeah, technically." Technically
Yeah.
I'm both of those things. And at the end of the night, she was like, "Stay funny and boring." Like, I don't think I have the option. I'm somebody who likes doing math. I don't think I could be anything less. I try to get people to like math. I don't think that it's one of those things that you can pass the love of onto. It's just one of those things that you either have a curiosity and a little itch for, or you don't. And people just are like, "No, I don't want to hear about
Yeah.
math. Don't
Yeah.
tell me how many numbers are in between 0 and 1." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "But
Like,
it's a lot."
yeah. It's funny about math because I never was into math growing up. Um, Especially when I got older and started having more trouble with it. But I'm good with basic math, like really good with basic math, like multiplication and like stuff like that and adding.
Yeah.
And so um people will see me, I'll think out the problems that I'm thinking in my head and I'll like
Yeah.
speak them out. And people will see me do that and they'll assume I'm like really good at math. And I'm like, I'm not good at math. I'm just good at basic math, like everybody else should be. Don't look at me like I'm smart. You should know this too. You should have done this whole thing with me. It should have been me figuring it out like that. No, but yeah, math is one of those things where if you're not going to, I don't believe a lot of people gain an interest in math over time, or get better with math over time. I mean, maybe some people get better with it, but I think the
I
interest in
gained
it
an
is
interest
something.
over time.
Really? Okay, define over
Yeah,
time.
all right. So, you know, like I said, I started undergrad when I was around 24, 25.
Yeah.
It was 2011. So, um, before that, I was really just playing music for the most part, and I actually I became an EMT. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and so I became an EMT for a while. And then while I was doing that work, I started undergrad, and I realized that I didn't like uh, the fluids that go inside people. I thought that people are like kind of nasty on the inside, and that I could probably do something else. So I started like towards this like engineering kind of thing. I was like maybe get with medicine or prosthetics or something that helps people, but I don't ever have to touch them.
Yeah.
And that would be a happy medium for me. And so you know, I dropped out of high school when I was 16. So I had to take remedial math those first couple of years. And, you know, I wanted to be an engineer, so everyone thought I was an idiot because they were like, "You want to be an engineer, but you stopped high school math at algebra 1, so you know you're going to be in remedial classes for a year or two." And you know that was fine by me. I said, "Okay, we'll burn that bridge as we get to it." And I enjoyed my first couple of math classes, but I wasn't like hooked on it. And then I took a class on making circuits, and so we're using algebra, we're using geometry, we're using stuff that I had seen in my other classes, and it kind of blew my mind. When my teacher said something about calculus, and he was like, like now you guys are using algebra, and you're talking about a rate of change, but what about an instantaneous rate of change? What if you got a curve? How do you find the slope of that line? And I was like, well, shit, I don't know the answer to that question. He was like, well, in a year or so, you'll take calculus, and then you'll figure out the answer to that question. And I was like, okay, I think I like math. And that kind of set me on a trajectory with that kind of thing. And now I'm in grad school for math. Now I got my engineering degree, and I was like, oh well, I got my fill of the engineering stuff. I love science. I love being a chemical engineer, but I didn't get my fill of the math. I was like, oh, but there's more of that stuff. Can I get the rest of that somehow? And they're like, oh yeah, but with a master's degree. So yeah, I guess
That's
that's something
interesting.
I'm trapped doing. But I was probably 20, 26 by the time that I had that realization that I was into it. And then I was probably 29, almost 30 by the time I said, okay, like I could go get a master's in math. That seems like the only appropriate thing to do with myself at this point in my life.
And now you're 72, and you are glad that you made all those decisions.
Oh God, yeah. I hope that when I'm 72, I'm glad that I made all the decisions that I made. I hope. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna cut us off here because it's 11
All
my
right.
time.
All right. Well,
But
it's
thank you so much
been,
for having me on.
yeah. Would you like to tell us where you're at on social media and mention anything that you're currently working on in terms of movies or writing?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, on Twitter, my handle is Alana Smithy, which is a play on Alan Smithy. It's a name that directors use to divorce themselves from movies that they don't like. So if you ever see Alan Smithy as a director's credit, it's because some other director made the movie and hated it. So I am Alana Smithy on Twitter. I'm currently working on a film called Abandonment, which we talked about earlier. It's the title of the film that I'm working on that should be out by the end of this year. I have another short coming out called Man's Best Friend, which is somewhere in editing hell. I don't know how that works, but that's another short, and then hopefully we'll have a third one by early next year. That is a lesbian werewolf rom-com. Shouldn't be a genre combination, but that's what I'm working on. And we'll be having the first ever New England Transgender Comedy Festival in New Haven this August. So, please follow my social media and go find out more about it.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.